Hey, so how about them Dodgers, eh? So this video is a very quick, brief look at August 13th, which is coming up in a couple of days, and the Venus retrograde kazimi with the sun. So and I'm not putting a chart up. Sorry, you'll find tons of other discussions about this, and I'll put a post up in the community tab so you can see the image. But just kind of work with me here. So doing this fast and on the fly for you. So when a planet is kazimi the sun, basically what we're saying is the planet has entered the exact degree of the sun and is within 15 minutes of being in the very bullseye center of the sun. Now, this is a very auspicious and important placement because it symbolizes being in the heart of the king, all right? Because the sun is the king of the solar system. And to be kazimi means to be in the heart of the king and under the king's protection, or the sun, right? So there's a lot of benefit and protection and just a whole lot of free pass on a lot of stuff that you get when something's kazimi the sun. Well, maybe not a free pass, but you've got a lot of protection around you. So Venus is kazimi the sun in Leo on the 13th. Now Venus is retrograde, and that's kind of a weakened, handicapped position. It's not at its happiest when it's retrograde. However, the sun in Leo is at its strongest. So when Venus is kazimi the sun, all the things ruled by Venus in your chart, okay, either by house, if you know your houses, if you've got the rising sign on your chart, or the planets that are disposited by Venus, which would be any planets that you have in the signs of Taurus or Libra, will also come under these auspices of receiving a tremendous amount, supernatural amount, superlative amount of protection and blessings and support for your initiatives on the 13th. Even though, technically, since prior to the 13th and continuing on until September 3rd when Venus goes retrograde, it's going to kind of feel like, pulling a donkey and getting it to move. Like, it's just, everything seems to be a struggle. But this one particular day is like a kaboom, pow, kerpow, blam, amazing power boost to the system. So if you don't know your time of birth, it's okay. You can look for anywhere that you have planets at 20 degrees Leo, or Leo in general, and also specifically planets in your chart, your natal planets, that are in the signs of Taurus or Libra. If you have these particular signature markers, right, planets in Taurus and Libra, or planets in Leo, this is going to be big. This is going to be big. So, make notes about what happens that day, and what you get started. So lots of support and protection. Now, here's the thing. So for those of you who want to make use of this kazimi, which I highly recommend, and boy, don't we all need some good news these days, here's what you're going to do. So the first thing you're going to do is this particular Venus retrograde kazimi, the sun in Leo, is exceptionally good for improving and repairing relationships. So if you have someone in your life that you are estranged from, or that you need to make repairs with, or that you need to do some healing with, even if it's your own inner child, okay? So for those of you who are struggling with PTSD, this is also a powerfully healing day as well to start initiatives to accomplish great growth and progress and big steps towards becoming whole in your healing. So these relationships are not just relationships with other people, they're also relationships with ourselves. So this is a great time to get in there and do the work, do the forgiving work, do the loving work, to extend the olive branch. For those of you who are more creative types, this is a powerfully creative day, but in special ways. This is a powerfully creative day to really get down deep into the basement and the cellar, into all that stuff you typically don't look at, and really see what comes up and out of you. This is a great time to give to do your shadow work and to give those things a voice. In all ways, for everyone, this is a very, very auspicious time to make relationships better. Okay, this particular kazim is going to give us an opportunity to do a lot of repair and healing and growth and reconnecting right? With our relationships, both within ourselves and with other people. So take advantage of that. It's very important. And you know, these windows of opportunity don't come around consistently or constantly. So make good use of the time while it's here, the opportunity. The other thing with this Venus retrograde kazimi, I'm going to keep this a short video, with this Venus retrograde kazimi, the sun in the sign of Leo at 20 degrees. Now this also will be squaring Uranus and Taurus at the same time. This can be one of two things. Either this can be something shocking and completely unsettling, or it can be breakthroughs, or both. So don't be surprised if surprising, shocking things happen, or unexpected things. Always think of the word unexpected when we see Uranus. Unexpected things could potentially happen under this kazimi on the 13th, but whatever occurs will absolutely be about evolution and growth, and literally pushing us forward by quantum leaps, you know, into the future and into our futures and our destinies. So there is that. It can be disruptive, so we may find some disruptions or outages. With Venus retrograde kazimi, the sun in Leo, and squaring Uranus and Taurus, there is the possibility that we may have major challenges to our power structures or our power grid. So we may have major power failures somewhere in the world. And I don't mean local power failures, like the local neighborhood goes out or a couple of streets. I mean like massive challenges to, you know, the power grid, you know, or power infrastructures. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on, because Jesus, right? Plan ahead. So there is that, you know, so for those of you who've got tons and tons of stuff in the freezer or whatever, you know, fragile, perishable food, you might want to think about the possibility that we might lose power for a day or two. Forewarned is forearmed, and I could be wrong, but if I'm not wrong, it's good to plan ahead. And if I am wrong, that's even better. Okay, the other things with Venus retrograde kazimi in the sun squaring Uranus. Oh, while this is happening, so there are good things here, and the reason I'm saying this is because while this is happening, we have a grand trine and a grand cross all happening simultaneously under this kazimi. So the grand trine is going to involve Mercury in Virgo, as well as Mars in Virgo, trining Pluto and Uranus, Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus. This is a fantastic grand trine, which affords us a lot of protection and support. So again, any disruptions or breakdowns at this time are accompanied by a tremendous amount of angelic support and divine intervention. So things could be a lot worse than they will be, whatever happens. So literally count your blessings. And by the way, for those of you who are like, oh my God, is she in her car again? If you have strong Gemini or third house emphasis, or you grew up with divorced parents, you probably also, like me, do a lot of work in your car, or your best clear thinking while you're driving. Anyway, sorry, little segue. Okay, now here's the sad news, and this is stuff we're going to keep an eye on. This particular Venus retrograde kazimi, the sun, falls on a rather unfortunate fixed star. It's Ras Elisad Australis, which is a very sad star that typically suggests the involvement of royalty and losses. So it's the rise and fall of kings. Now, with Venus retrograde in the heart of the sun, this doesn't lend itself to the idea that we might have an elevation, sudden elevation in status for royalty or kings, or people who are seen as kings in their own right in their sphere of influence, right? So we have actual kings, actual royalty. We have national leaders, you know, they're kings. And we also have people like in cults, you know, who are seen as kings. They are literally the God-given, mandated leader for that group. That's typically how cults see their leaders. So it's possible that people who are, you know, kings in their own right because of their cult-like status, celebrities, right? Kings and queens of rock and roll. The people in this level of status are undergoing some particular challenges right now. And more specifically, there is the possibility that we may lose someone very notable at this time. And more to me, and I'm going out on a limb here, I could really be wrong about this, but I think looking at these aspects, there's just the distinct possibility that one of the people who is viewed as a king in his or her own right, you know, in their large group of influence, they may lose their child, which is even more sad. So this particular kazimi with the fixed star Ras Elis Australis doesn't lend itself to a whole lot of happy for somebody. We're talking some massive grieving and loss. So there is that. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's hope I'm completely wrong about that, because I wouldn't wish that on anybody, especially if it's our kids. So that is it. So if you needed something to look forward to in the next couple of days, Venus will retrograde or do the tango backwards right into the heart of the sun, into the embrace and heart of the sun. So Venus will be in the heart of the king and under the king's protection. And there's lots of good stuff happening at this time. So we've got the grand trine in Earth with, the fixer-uppers, Mercury and Mars and Virgo, who will also not make a big fanfare about what they're doing. Because remember, Virgo is a modest sign, Taurus is a modest sign, Capricorn is very subdued sign, reserved. So the good things that they're doing that have been going on have a lot to do with stabilizing the economy, for everyone globally. So there's I would suspect, I don't know because I'm not an economist, but I would suspect there's been a lot going on with a fury and a vengeance since Pluto backed up into Capricorn and Mercury and Mars entered Virgo. Right about that time, a lot of activity to stabilize global economies, as well as local ones. So there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And again, they don't, these signs don't talk about what they're doing. They're too busy doing it to worry about bragging about it. This kazimi on the 13th should highlight, the work that's been going on and maybe make it more clear just how close we've come to averting disaster. So there's that. And that's a good thing. We're okay with that. And also, the Grand Cross. So the moon is in Cancer at this time, and the moon is opposing Pluto under this kazimi. Whee! Right? Well, that's a happy thought. And at the same time, the moon sets up a Grand Cross with the nodes, the North Node in Aries, the North Node and South Node in Aries and Libra. North Node's in Aries. Now, the last time we saw the nodes in Aries and Libra was back during January 6th insurrection here in the United States. We'd kind of like not to revisit that. Because the dumber they are, the more guns they have, I swear to God. What they lack in degrees in education, they make up for in ammunition. Well, that might just be the people I grew up around, and maybe it's different where you're at. Anyway, we'd like to not revisit that. But that whole aggressive, assertive, by any, not by any necessary, but, by force if necessary, right? Might makes right. Mentality may get a little bit of a bump or a surge again, or be spotlighted again on the 13th, right? Give or take a day, depending on where you are in the globe. So with that said, we can certainly see a lot of chest beating and noise making and a whole lot of resurgence of this might makes right mentality, which will not last. Understand this will not last. Like everything we saw, at least here in the United States, with the insurrection, that was a one and done deal. That we will never go through that again. And we called it then, and I'm repeating it now. We won't. It was a one and done deal. They had one chance. That was it. We're never going through this again. So we should get a little boop, like a little bump, a revisit of that kind of mentality around the 13th, but it won't last. It won't last. But what it will do is give us a very clear indication of where we have work left to do to finish clearing out this toxic waste. Get the toilet waste out of the freaking bathroom back in the toilet where it belongs. Okay, so that's that. So it's actually not, it's not an awful Venus retrograde kazimi in Leo. It's pretty damn powerful. Really, it's really powerful. But it's powerful for specific things. And a lot of those things have to do with love. Genuine, heartfelt love, and not just romantically, it's also platonically and spiritually and familially and all that sort of stuff. So for those of you who are struggling with some estranged relationships, this is a powerful time to extend the olive branch and try and get some kind of healing done or reparation done between you and other, or you and self, okay? For other stuff, it's just a really good time to dig deep and find out what your subconscious is trying to tell you. Again, that's a relationship too. And finally, look for a big bump in aggressive, chest beating, war cries, right? That was the other thing. This particular Venus kazimi, the sun, is also occurring in the decadent and Dwad. Sorry. in the decadent and a lot of Aries. So it is entirely possible that beating the drums of war may resurge on this date. So watch what happens with world leaders and conversations outside of this, your little island on the planet, to see what's going on, especially if you live here in the United States, because this is just a nonstop torturous news feed of, you know, the orange toddler trying to get out of, you know, prison, or going to prison. Anyway, so there's that. We're gonna be okay. I just want to tell you, we're gonna be okay. This really good stuff with this Venus kazimi, the Sun retrograde, but it's not without, you know, its complications. It's like astrology is like music. It's not one simple thing. It's not one note, ding, 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 like playing a little toddler piano, right? It's literally lines and lines and lines of notes and combination of notes, and sometimes louder, sometimes softer, overlapping each other. So there's always more than one thing happening simultaneously, you know, when we're looking at stuff. We're just trying to pick out the high points that are really going to grab your attention. So, and that's what we're looking at now. So make good use of this Venus kazimi, the Sun in Leo, because there's more power in this kazimi than we probably have with any other stellar combination. And otherwise, you know, keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, be aware of your surroundings, because, you know, that whole gorilla chest beating, whoa, war! Like, we got one more bump of that coming up, because apparently it's like a bad fart or a burp, like they just got to get it out. Oh my God. So don't get sucked into it, but also don't panic either, right? Because it's passing. It's just a little boop, burp, and it's gone. All right. So hope this helps, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.